Okay, hi, it's Krista, your art appreciation teacher, and you might be hearing some giggling and barking. My dogs and my son are here, and they're being silly, so hopefully I can get through this first slide without too much ruckus behind me. We are going to be discussing painting this presentation. This first picture that we're looking at is actually of the artist painting herself. Yes, as you can see, she's caught in the moment of creating. And I want to talk a little bit about painting. Basically, artists use pigments, powdered color suspended in a medium or binder that holds the particles of pigment together. So just like with pastel or color pencil, we had wax or chalk or whatever to hold the color together. Same thing with acrylic and oil or fresco. You have a binder that protect. Then before you start painting, you prime your canvas or the wall, depending wood, with a material that's called a ground. So basically it's just white. It puts a layer between the material and the paint, the pigment that you're going to be using. The solvent is the vehicle that thins the paint so that it will glide and you can push it around more easily. Okay, so I put the dogs and the child in my bedroom and locked them out so I can try to get through this. This next painting that we have is by Artemises. Remember, we talked about her a while back, and she's one of the very few women artists that survived during the Renaissance time period. The painting in painting was thought in the Mid Ages to be merely mechanical skill involving copying. It was not until the Renaissance did painting become recognized as a creative endeavor. The painter here, Artemisia, shows herself realistically, the color, fabric, and even the neckline. She shows that she is copying, but at the same time, she's the creator. See the intense look on her face? Her hair is out of place, showing her creativity. So kind of a cool, it's very, and also you can see that she has implied line here. You can tell that the painting is outside the canvas, and then it's just beautifully painted. Okay. Again, this is a mummy, a portrait of a man. It's in Egypt. It's done in encaustic. Encaustic is combining pigment with a binder of hot wax. So basically, it's layered wax painting, widely used in classical Greece. A funeral portrait, which were attached to the mummy cases of the deceased. It's only indication that we have of the painting classical techniques by the Greek. Remarkably skilled with the brush, painters have to work quickly so that the wax will stay liquid. Face is very naturalistic and sensitive. Widely expressive eyes and delicate modeling of the cheeks makes us feel like we are looking at a real person. Now I have a couple things that I have to define. Fresco pigment, it's a mixture with lime water and then applied to a lime plaster wall that is either still wet or hardening and dry. So that is Fresco pigment. Bona fresco, painted while wet, painting becomes part of the wall. The painting must work. The painter must work quickly before the plaster dries. And then lastly, fresco secco. The pigment is combined with binders such as egg yolk, oil, or wax and applied separately on the dry plaster. Moisture can creep in between the plaster and the wall. So the best way is probably the fresco pigment because it's being mixed together and it's all drying together. Okay, so this still life with eggs and thrash, 79 BC. This is an example of a fresco. Greek culture traced its roots to I guess it's the Crete, Crete. This was discovered at Pompeii in the 1800s. It was buried along with volcanic ash. So if you look closely at it, it is very realistically done for that time period because you're talking 79 CE. So it's a very old painting. And you can see that you have realistically and shaded eggs, so they look like they're round. Same thing with the vase and the birds. And this would have been painted right into the wall. So that's why it's all cracking because the wall itself is starting to fall apart. But this is a great example of the Greek culture, Pompeii. Okay, in this fresco in India, it is a painting of one of their gods. It's a fresco wall painting. It's in an Indian cave. It was covered with dung and cow dung, mud and cow dung, actually bound together with straw and animal hair. Once it was dried, it was smoothed over with a layer of gypsum. So basically, it's a wall construction. And then it would have been painted. They outlined the figure, filled in the outline with color, building up figure features from darker to lighter tones to create shading gradations. The figure is the enlightened one. He postpones joining Nirvana to help others achieve enlightenment. This piece is one of the most well preserved for its time. So it would have been dried and then they would have painted on top of it. And typically what happens with that is that it cracks and falls apart. Water seeps in between the pigment, the paint. As you can see, there's like that gray area under the figure's neck that has chipped away because water got in between the layers and it pulled it away. So this is an excellent example, well preserved painting in dried fresco. So again, this one is a fresco, and I want you to take a moment and look at it and think, do you think that he did it while the plaster was, or gypsum was wet, or did you think he did it while it was dry? So actually he did it what we call a bona fresco, meaning he did it while it was wet. So he would have drawn out lines, kind of gridded it as he was going to work for a day's work while the gypsum was drying. If the area was complex though, like a face, he would work on it later. So that would have been fresco secco. So he would have let it dry and gone back in. But this is very beautiful. It's a, religious scene, of course, very interested in the Bible and the Gospel, 1305, and it would have been painted right on the wall of a church, wherever. And I love the colors are just gorgeous, I personally think. Okay, in this painting, it would have been painted on the ceiling of the nave of the church. And the nave of the church is like where the worshipers would go to sit and listen to the priest. So the center portion of the church. Looking up, the congregation had the illusion that the roof of the church had been removed. That's the idea, like they sliced it up and you were looking up at heaven. The glories of heaven are revealed. This particular artist, Pazzo, was a master of perspective. So what he would do is many of the foreshortening of the figures became even smaller in size as they raised toward the center of the ceiling to make it even feel like it was more far away. So the master of perspective. Remember, things that are farther away from you appear smaller and things that are closer are larger. And so he exaggerated that even more to make the worshipers feel like they were in the presence of God.